Look back before pulling a U-turn. Always do that. When pulling a U-turn in the street, make sure nobody's coming behind you. Very important. Always.
Head west on Scenic Drive toward Barber Oak Drive.
Always do that. I know that sounds random story.
Turn right onto South Custer Road.
I know that sounds basic, but you'd be surprised how many times people pull out of a parking from the side of the street and make a U-turn without checking if somebody's coming down the street behind them. When I was in junior
Continue
college...
on South Custer Road for 1.5 miles.
Sorry, let me turn that down. Just a random story on that note. When I was in junior college, I used to work as a valet attendant, and we used to do this for people in Rancho Santa Fe, which is a neighborhood in San Diego where a lot of people with a lot of money live, and we used to park their cars and everything for them and their friends whenever they had parties. And it was crazy because I saw this car. I've seen a few interesting things working as a valet attendant, done a few interesting things, or had some interesting experiences working as a valet attendant. But this one time there was a guy who was actually on a motorcycle. I was standing on the street, I still remember this. There was a guy who was driving a motorcycle, a big guy, like not a little motorcycle, like a Harley style rider. And there was a Honda Civic parked on the side of the street. It looked like nobody was even in it. You couldn't even tell if anyone was in it. And all of a sudden, right as the guy on the motorcycle is about to pass that car, it pulled a U-turn. It pulled a U-turn right in front of him. So they're both going this way. The car is facing this way, parked on the side of the street. The motorcycle driver is driving the same way. And right before he's about to pass them, they pull a U-turn and he slams his motorcycle right into the driver's side door. And he wasn't going slow. He was probably doing at least, if I had to guess, at least 30 miles an hour. A couple young students were in the car. I think they probably went to UCSD. And he started shouting. He was pissed off, I mean, he was not happy that they pulled in front of him like that. Got out, hit their window. They just locked it. That was smart what they did, actually. They just locked their doors, stayed put inside, and just called the police. Very, very wise decision to not get out of the vehicle at that point. And then he calmed down. He calmed down after that, after some time. Had his vehicle his motorcycle had to get towed. But yeah, the reason why I said that is just before, if you're parked on the side of the street, if you're gonna make a U-turn, if you're gonna pull out, don't forget to make sure nobody's behind you. Make sure that nobody is behind you. Anyways, moving on. Thoughts for the day. Thoughts for the day. What are the thoughts for the day? It's something I've been chatting with a good high school friend of mine, cool guy, and it just made me think, like, when we were talking, we kind of came across the concept of how it's not a new concept, of course. I believe the originator of this is the guy, Chris Gardner, the guy who Will Smith plays in The Pursuit of Happiness, is based on a real person. But Chris Gardner's mother told Chris basically that ain't nobody coming to save you. There's nobody coming to save you. You need to save yourself. If you want to make a change in life, You need to save yourself. And that's, again, a lot of this stuff is basic, you know, a lot of the fundamental concepts that, you know, I'm reviewing in my mind and kind of sharing, you know, out loud are very fundamental. But to me, that is the you know, those basics are what you know, what work. Those basic fundamental thoughts are what have been proven time and time again over time to lead to a successful life. And I feel like one of the biggest flaws is, I believe I've said this probably numerous times, but I really, because I've seen it so many times, is the concept of people saying, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Everybody knows what they are supposed to be doing. If you find a homeless person and ask them, what is it that you think you should be doing? Do you think you should be sitting outside of the liquor store, drinking alcohol, you know, drinking at 11 o'clock, you know, in the morning, or whatever time it might be? It really is irrelevant what time it is. But what do you think you should be doing? He might tell you, yeah, I know, man, I need to stop drinking. I know I should clean my act up. I know that I should go out, get a job. I know I should, you know, change my life. So knowing is not enough. Is that Bruce Lee who said that? Knowing is not enough. We must apply. My bad. You're more apt to stay on course and take those corrective actions. I'm trying to think of a better analogy to maintain that daily reminder, but the only thing I could think of is, I think it's a Navy SEAL quote. I don't know if it's David Goggins who made this, or who I heard it from, or Jocko Willink. One of them, I want to say it was a Navy SEAL, who said that the only easy day was yesterday. The only easy day was yesterday. If you can remind yourself, that's what I mean, you know, sometimes, most of the time, I don't want to do, you know, a lot of things that, you know, going to the gym, who really wants to go, you know, train, you know, and you know, whatever it might be that you're doing.
Then turn left onto Drexel Drive.
But I don't know where they're taking me.
Take the next left onto Drexel Drive, then turn left onto Airline Road.
Okay. But if you can remember that the only easy day was yesterday, and it's behind you, you know, it might have been a tough day. It probably was a tough day. But it doesn't matter, because compared to today, yesterday was an easy day.
Take the
So
next left onto Airline
that
Road, then
that
turn
reminder
left onto Mockingbird Lane.
that reminder can really help to stay on course every day. You know, when you're sailing a ship, I'm not qualified to speak on this, but because I've never sailed a ship, but you've seen that, right? You see those guys at the front of a
Turn
ship.
right onto Mockingbird Lane.
Dude, where are they taking me? You've seen those guys on a ship, standing at the front of the
Continue on
ship,
Mockingbird Lane for 1 mile.
and they, you know, they're constantly turning that wheel a little bit, turning the, I don't even know what to call that thing at the front. They're constantly turning it a little bit, course correcting. You know, they have their compass, looking at the compass, and they might just be a few degrees off, but you need to course correct constantly every day. There's no ship out there that's there's no ship out there where there's no captain of the ship, where otherwise the water will just toss the ship all over the place, right? So he's constantly, yeah, the water is going to toss you and turn you. The distractions are going to come, but you need to be at the wheel. You need to be at the wheel, all of us, you know. Again, you know, this is a heavy reminder to myself that you really can't take the pressure off.